you doing, everybody? And welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today, Austin is here. Austin, how we doing today?
We're doing good, Trage.
Doing good as always. Coming off the Christmas break. How was Christmas in the Humpke household?
We had a lot of food, Trage. Like almost too much food. Too much food. I got some good presents, so that's good. A lot of good food though, and I'm fueled up for this podcast now.
He's fueled up and he's ready to rock and roll. It was a busy weekend. I got married on Saturday.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Got married on Saturday. Then Sunday, we turned around and we really didn't have any. You know, people asked us over the weekend, how's it feel to be married now? We didn't have time to be married because Saturday we rolled out of bed. We had to run over to Chippewa to Autumn's father's Christmas. And then that was church and then Christmas that night. Then we got home, went straight to bed. Then Monday morning, Christmas morning, we rolled out of bed. We got back in the car. We drove back over to Chippewa. We went to her mother's Christmas. And then we went to her grandparents after that. Then came back to Loyal to go to my grandparents for Christmas. So it's been a hectic couple of days. We really haven't had the time to actually sit there and process that we did get married over the weekend. So that it's definitely been busy.
Yeah, it seems like you did a lot of traveling for you, Trage. Everyone came to my house, so I was lucky. I didn't have to travel, and I just got to sit in my living room. I just got to sit in my living room and just watch football all day.
I got to listen to it on the radio and sometimes check it on the ESPN app. I was in church when the Packers were on, but, you know, that's okay. But we got a lot to talk about today. We got to talk about the Packers. Packers coming off of, I'm going to call it ugly. I'm going to call it an ugly win against the Carolina Panthers. We got the Bucs on a weekend recap. They had a series there with the New York Knicks. We got to talk about that. Badger basketball coming off a win there Friday. And then we got to talk about the college football slate from this last weekend, some of the bowl games that we talked about, looking at the ones coming up today. Also look at the NFL in a whole and then do our fantasy football recap. But with that right away, I want to jump into the Bucs. First off, Saturday, Bucs got the big 130-111 win over the Knicks. Looking at that one, the Bucs controlled it from the opening tip. 36 points in that first quarter for the Bucs compared to the Knicks 27, and from there they just paced the game. The Bucs were in control of that one from the start. It was kind of a one-sided series again there for the Bucs to start that one. The Knicks kind of couldn't keep up with the Bucs, and that was definitely interesting to see. But with that, I'm gonna jump over to Austin. Austin, what do you got for stats for that first matchup there with the Knicks?
Yeah, Giannis kind of led us here with the Bucs. Giannis had 28 points. Middleton showed up and had 20 points. That's kind of huge, and he had a lot of minutes too. He had 33 minutes for the Bucs there. Lopez had 5. Lillard had 19, and Beasley also had 19. Bobby Portis, though, off the bench again with 23 points. That's huge for the Bucs. As we continue to see that help off the bench. And then we also see Cameron Payne had 8 points and Kyneton had 8 points. So, like I said, a lot of help off the bench. But Bobby had 11 rebounds also. That's kind of huge. He had a double-double there. You can kind of say he was almost the player of the game. People might say Giannis was because he had 28 points, but Bobby still had more rebounds than him. So that was good to see out of Bobby Portis off the bench. And definitely a team effort here. A lot of players scored for the Bucs, so you love to see that. But then when you look at the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, he had 36 points. Julius Randle had 26 points, and we talked about them being their best players, their go-to players, you could say, for them. RJ Barrett had 13. Dante DiVincenzo had 11, and then Hartenstein had 12 for them. And unlike the Bucs, they didn't really have that much help off the bench. Their best guy was 7, and then they had 3 other guys with 2 points. We out-rebound them by 12 rebounds too, so that was huge there as well. I mean, you could talk about free throws, but they score more free throws than us, so you can't really say anything about that. It was just we shot the ball better. We shot 52% from the field, where they shot 44% from the field, and we made 16 three-pointers. We went 50% from the three-point line, or from the three-pointer range, and went 16 for 32, where they went 9 for 29. And I think we'll get into the next game, but I think that was a big difference when you look at this game compared to the next game on Christmas Day was that 3-point shooting.
Yeah, definitely. The big difference there, Beasley and Portis both had 8 3-pointers apiece, or together combined for those two. I mean, they shot it well. Like you said, Bobby Portis could have been player of the game there. Coming off the bench, 27 minutes with 23 points. That's impressive work out of Bobby, and 11 rebounds to go along with that. I think the rebounding was a big key for Bobby in that one. Bucks turned the ball over 14 times in that one, though. Don't like to see the turnover total there. Trying to keep that around that 10 mark or below. So definitely a turnover was a problem for that. 22 fouls on the Bucks in that one also. Little trigger happy on both sides. It seemed like there was a lot of fouls being called both ways. 44 fouls in total on the game, 22 apiece for each team in that one. Definitely, it was a good game for the Bucks. Definitely love to see them shoot it well. But that kind of leads us into that Christmas Day action where the shots weren't falling and the Bucks couldn't pull that one out. 129 to 122 was the finish. The Knicks controlled that one from the opening tip. Knicks put up 36 in that first quarter compared to the Bucks 27. So it was a flip the script from game one of the series there. And from there, I mean, the Knicks kind of just paced this entire game. That first quarter was definitely the difference, though, in this one. The Bucks did not have that hot start like they did in game one. But with that, what do we see for stats in game two of this short weekend series?
Yeah, here we saw Giannis. Obviously, Giannis still scoring his points. He had 32 with 13 rebounds. Lillard had 32. He went 4 for 13 from the three-point range. And early on, especially in that first quarter, he was 0 for 5, I think they said. So that's where we saw a lot of where the New York Knicks was able to get out ahead of us and have such a big lead after the first quarter. But Chris Middleton, 24 points, 33 minutes. So I think we're back to Chris Middleton getting back. We're back to having Middleton having a lot of those minutes now where he's not being limited anymore, which is good to see. And him scoring 24 points is huge for us. Brook Lopez had 14 points, and then Beasley, 0 points. So we see where when Beasley doesn't score any points, that's where it hurts us as a team. Bobby Portis only 12, which is still not bad off the bench. 12 points off the bench is still pretty big. He played 31 minutes. Beasley only played 19, so I don't know if he got hurt. I didn't watch the whole game because there was football on and whatnot, and I'd rather watch football than the Bucks, but he might have got hurt there, not entirely sure. And then Cameron Payne had 3, Pat Connaughton had 3, and then Jackson Jr. had 2 free throws there for them. So I think this is what we see when the Bucks don't score 130 points. They lose games like these. We average 130 something, and then when we don't score, our defense isn't there to pick us up. And we end up losing 129 to 122. For the New York Knicks, it was, of course, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle again. Brunson had 38, Randle had 24, but R.J. Barrett had 21 this time, which helps them. DiVincenzo only had 3, and Hartenstein had 11. But when you look at their bench now, they finally, unlike last time, they had help off the bench with Isaiah Quickly had 20 points for them with only 22 minutes as well. And then Josh Hart had 10 points. And then Grimes only had 2. But this is what happened. This kind of the script's kind of flipped here, where our bench didn't do so hot. Their bench did hot. One of our starters didn't produce any points. Their starters was all kind of collective, minus Dante DiVincenzo. But, I mean, he's a really good defender, so he helped in that way. So script kind of flipped here on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and like you're saying there, the big difference, Bobby Portis and Beasley in that one. It says Beasley's active, so I don't know what the difference was there on Christmas Day. Maybe because he was struggling, that they just said enough's enough. But when I look at this ball game, the difference for me definitely was the 3-point line. But you think about the scoring. Okay, if Bobby can't hit it and Beasley's struggling, where are we going to get the scoring from? That's what I think the Bucks really need to figure out here moving forward is where's our second, where's our, Giannis is your first threat. He's supposed to be your all-star. Damian Lillard's your second threat, but you can count those two as one. They're both number ones. And then Middleton's in there too. But where is that fourth guy? Where's that fourth guy that when push comes to shove and we need one more guy to pick up points in a crunch, who's going to be that guy for this team? You look at dynasties. LeBron, D. Wade, Chris Bosh, and then you had the Birdman and everybody else. Mario Chalmers was on that team. Look at the Warriors. You had Clay, you had Steph, you had KD for a little while there. You also had Draymond Green in there too, and then you had Livingston off the bench. You had Andre Iguodala coming off the bench there for you. So you look at these different teams, you say, okay, they had that option. If Bobby goes cold, if Beasley can't hit it, who's my option? Who's my next guy who can put up points? Because like you said, the Bucks need to get to 130. I mean, that's where we're kind of sitting right now, is the Bucks are winning games when they score 130 points plus. And when they don't, this is what we see. Who's going to pick up the slack? I don't think Pat Connaughton's going to be that guy. I don't think Cameron Payne's going to be that guy. Andre Jackson Jr. isn't much of a scorer. We know this. He's more of a defensive-oriented player. He can score, but he's more defense. Mario Beachcamp, he can score it at times, but he's still not that dominant threat to score for you. So who is going to be that guy for the Bucks? I think they're still missing. I think they're still missing that guy who could be that potential big-time fourth scorer, because Brook Lopez so far this year, he's had moments, but I don't think he can ring it up like they want him to. I don't think he can get that 20-plus games multiple times out. So you get in a 7-game series, and all of a sudden Bobby's cold for most of that series. Where's that next guy? Where are we going to find it from? A short game series like this, or even if you get into the playoffs there and you have that 5-7 game series, Beasley can't hit it. You got to have that guy. And I don't think they have him yet on this team. So that's what I think the Bucks are missing right now, but definitely something to look at here moving forward. But with that, Bucks lose the Christmas Day game 129-122. But with that, I want to look over at the standings, the updated standings coming out of Christmas Day action heading into today. The Celtics lead the East 23-6. The Bucks sitting at 22-8, sitting in that 2 spot. The 76ers 20-9. The Orlando Magic 17-11. The Heat coming in at 18-12, and the Knicks at 17-12. Looking over at the West, the Minnesota Timberwolves sitting at 22-6. The Nuggets 22-10. Then we have the Oklahoma City Thunder sitting there at 18-9, followed up by the Kings at 17-11, the Mavericks at 18-12, and the Clippers at 17-12. Nothing really surprising. That we haven't talked about there in the standings so far.
No, nothing really changed from when we last talked about it. Minnesota, they have one more loss, but still kind of controlling the Western Conference. And then Boston, they won. I'm pretty sure they beat LA last night or yesterday, so they added another win there. But, the Bucks loss didn't really hurt them at all, so that's fine. That's good. And Philly lost also to Miami, so but overall, there were some really good games yesterday, so that's good for the NBA. And yeah, things still looking interesting in the NBA standings, though, for sure.
It's definitely, it's something we didn't expect going into this season, but you love surprises, and that's what we're getting so far in the standings. So far, it's still a young season. So we'll find out more here as it goes on. But with that, I want to talk about Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in at the store there and see the awesome crew at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville, Wisconsin, or check them out on Facebook, Pittsville Farm and Home Center on Facebook. But with that, I want to jump over. Badger basketball got the win against Chicago State there on Friday. That was a good game. The Badgers pulled it off. The key to that one was the Badgers pulled it off without Chucky Hepburn, because Hepburn did leave that game early. It looks like he's okay. That was the good news out of it. He came back out to the bench. He had a lot of tape on his groin area, on his leg. But, from what we heard, from what Chucky said, he was up. He was walking around. He walked back to the bench under his own power. And according to Greg Gard, Chucky says he is A-okay and he will be ready to go. So that's good news. Also, this big break that they're going to have, they don't play again until, I believe, after the new year. They will square off with Iowa on January 2nd. So a lot of time for Chucky to rest, too. So that is good news for the Badgers there. Chucky Hepburn is A-okay. But with that, I want to jump over to Austin. Austin, what do we see for stats in this one?
We'll start with the Chicago State Cougars here. A lot of low numbers, and obviously they scored 53 points, so you're going to see low numbers. But they were led by Cardette Jr. with 10 points, and then Crawford had 8, Corbett had 9. Jernigan had 7 points, and then Davis had 3. Off the bench, they had Green with 8 points. So, I mean, he scored more than 2 of their starters, and then same as Crawford there. And then Cole had 4 points, and then Gene Charles had 2, and Neal had 2. So, not a whole lot of scoring for the Chicago State Cougars, which, I mean, give credit to the Wisconsin defense there because, I mean, you saw what this team was able to do in Northwestern. So, credit to the Wisconsin defense there for them. They only did shoot 10 for 17 at the free throw line, and I think that's one of the bigger differences. We shot 10 for 26 at the free throw line, so we doubled their free throws there, and we shot almost 10 more free throws than them also. So that was kind of huge. But looking at the players' scores, we were kind of AJ Storr had a big game here. AJ Storr had 29 points. That's huge. And I think that's where we kind of picked up the slack from Hepburn not being able to score there, and also being out. And then Max Klesman not being able to score. Besides AJ Storr, Stephen Crowell had 13, Tyler Wall had 11, Klesman had 4, Hepburn, like you said, got hurt, but he had 3 points. And then off the bench, Gilmore, he had 7 points for us in 10 minutes. So that's good to see Gilmore getting some action there, getting some points. Blackwell, 6 points. Connor Seaton had 5. I did see him out there running around, making a couple buckets, so that's good to see. And then Kamari McGee had 2 points. So a lot of players played. Even Isaac Gard got in there, Greg Gard's son. So that's when you know it's kind of a blowout when Isaac Gard's getting in there running around. But overall, it was a good team win for the Badgers. We had 7 more rebounds than them. They had 35 rebounds. We had 42. They had 14 offensive rebounds. If you want to be concerned about anything, you can look at that and say that they had 14 offensive rebounds compared to our 9 offensive rebounds. Luckily, we were able to out-rebound them on the defensive end, 33-21. So it didn't really hurt us completely in the end, but still 14 rebounds, offensive rebounds, that's a high number for them.
Yeah, and like you were talking, their Storr had the big night. He was the big guy for the Badgers in that ball game with no Chucky, didn't have him to rely on. A lot of guys struggled. The Badgers shot 1 for 11 from 3, other than what Storr did. Storr shot 3 for 5 from the perimeter compared to everybody else going 1 for 11. So it definitely was a struggle for the Badger team all the way around, but Storr carried the weight in this one. 29 points like you were talking there. And he showed off all the tools that he had. I thought that was the big thing. He hit it from the perimeter. He had it around the rim. 7 for 10 from the rim, or around the rim area, around 2 feet. So 7 for 10 from there for Storr in this ball game here. I mean, the backdoor cut was there for Storr. He did a lot to convert in this game. He had 2 3-point plays that he converted in this ball game, and also had a big offensive rebound that set the tone in this one. So a lot of AJ Storr action in this one, and that's what we kind of want to see. That's what he was. The Badgers needed their Johnny Davis in this ball game, and they got their Johnny Davis. That was AJ Storr. AJ Storr is writing his own kind of script. Looking at usage of players in the Big Ten right now, estimating the percentage of team possessions a player uses while on the floor. So as many times as AJ Storr is going to get the ball. Storr is 3rd in the league at 30.7% right now. He's actually only behind the likes of Zach Edey and Tyson Walker in the league right now. Zach Edey sitting at 31.7, Tyson Walker at 31.3. So, I mean, we're just talking how much we're using AJ Storr and how much he's demanding or commanding this offense. And I think that goes to show who is your guy? Who is your guy that you're going to trust in some crunch situations to get you a big bucket? And I think that guy is turning into AJ Storr. He had 20 points in that first half, so only 9 in the second. He had 20 points in that first half. Like you were talking there, it's alarming to see the 14 offensive rebounds. This was Chicago State team that really didn't have any size coming in this ball game. We kind of expected the Badgers to out-rebound them in all facets. 14 offensive rebounds. I'd have to go back and watch the game completely through and through to really know exactly how those offensive rebounds came. You know, sometimes they're kind of tick off the rim, terrible shots, and you get an offensive rebound out of it just because you're in the right spot. So it could have been one of those kind of things for the Badgers in this one, but also still 14 offensive rebounds is alarming against a team that kind of struggles, with size. They don't have a lot of size. They have a lot of quickness. We saw that, but they don't have a lot of size in this one. I thought a big thing was Max Klesman up against Cardette. Cardette coming into this one, we were talking about him. He was averaging a boatload of points a game. He was the main guy for this Chicago State team. And he was the main reason why Chicago State went and upset number 25, Northwestern. He had 30 points in that ball game against Northwestern. Now we look at him against Wisconsin, 10 points, 8.9 points below his average. So he's averaging about 18 points a game, 19 points a game right now. Finished 4 for 22 from the floor, making as many baskets as he had turnovers in that ball game. So Klesman did a fantastic job against Cardette in this one, matching him physically and athletically. I mean, he had times where Blackwell was on him, and Blackwell did well, and so did Hepburn for that while that Hepburn was in there. But Klesman was the main defender on him, and Klesman did a fantastic job kind of shutting him down in this ball game here. The big thing, like I talked about earlier, though, the big thing of the night was seeing that Chucky Hepburn was okay, that everything checked out with his injury. He walked off. Everybody was kind of worried. I know we were setting up for the wedding at that time. I was listening on the radio to Matt LePay, and all of a sudden I was getting text from my sister, and she's like, oh, Chucky just tore his ACL. Oh, he's limping off the court. He can't even walk off the court. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on right now? I mean, Matt LePay is trying to explain it on the radio, but you can only see so much from hearing him. So you're sitting there like, oh crap. What am I missing right now? I don't watch one game and Chucky gets hurt. What is going on right now? And finally to, hear after, because then I'm searching on Google and I'm searching on Twitter or X now, and I'm trying to find the articles and I'm trying to get people to update me on what's going on with Chucky Hepburn. And all I saw was a video of him basically carried off the court by his teammate and a coach there. So I'm like, oh boy, what is going on? I mean, it was a non-contact injury for Chucky. And I mean, everything checked out. Everything was good. So good to see there out of Chucky in that one. Looking at some of the numbers in that one, Storr reached the 20-point plateau for the 5th time in his career, including the 3rd time this season. That is impressive. He's also scored in double figures in 10 of the Badgers' 12 games this season. Wisconsin has scored at least 70 points in 6 consecutive games. That's actually the longest streak since a 9-game stretch in the 2021-2022 season. So impressive stat there. Also, Wisconsin matched a season low 7 turnovers. So like we talked about in the preview show, Wisconsin had to limit turnovers, play their game. Only 7 turnovers in this game, so that was impressive. The Cougars were actually forcing 15.6 turnovers per game heading into this ball game. So the Badgers limiting that to 7, that was impressive work out of Wisconsin in this one. Impressive ball handling and skill by Wisconsin. Looking at some other ones, Wisconsin held Chicago State to 20 for 63 from the field, a season low. That was impressive work there. Also, Wall has 72 blocks now. He passed Sam Oki for 20th on the school's all-time block list. So Tyler Wall moving up on the list there. I don't know if he'll get up to number 1 by when it's all said and done. But at the end of the day, Badgers pick up the big win. They took care of business. That's the big thing we wanted to see. We were getting towards that's the end of the non-conference schedule for Wisconsin. And a good way to go out. Badgers 9-3. After that gauntlet of a schedule they had to go through with the likes of Marquette, Michigan State, and Arizona in 3 straight games. Also playing teams like Virginia. SMU is nothing to shake your head at in Tennessee, and Providence. Providence is playing some good ball. Providence, I believe they just beat UConn the other night. So Providence is a pretty darn good team too. Wisconsin has played a gauntlet of a schedule, a non-conference schedule, and I think it's primed them up to get into this Big Ten schedule, and I think it's going to be a sigh of relief to get into the Big Ten schedule. There's no easy things in the Big Ten schedule, but now you get some consistency with teams not having to play the likes of some of the top-ranked teams in the country in a 3-game stretch. So good news there for the Badgers. Got the win. Chucky Hepburn seems like he is A-okay and ready to rock and roll here through this Big Ten schedule. But with that, I just want to talk about our friends there at Game Day Supply in Onalaska. They do everything from skate sharpening. They have hockey accessories, custom fielding gloves for baseball and softball. They also carry a wide variety of baseball and softball bats, from DeMarini to Louisville Slugger and Marucci. Leave it to Game Day Supply in Onalaska to supply you with all of your game day needs. But with that, I want to jump over. We got to talk about the college football game slate that is going to be coming up here. Over this last weekend, most of the games kind of finished as we expected. I just want to point out, Northwestern did get the win against Utah. Just want to point that out. Somebody told me that the Pac-12 was just all that and that Northwestern was going to lose to Utah. And I'm pretty sure from the final score there, Northwestern made Utah look like a terrible offensive team. I don't know.
Let me tell you, the game overall was terrible. All right, so I don't want to hear it from Northwestern either.
Nobody wants to hear from either side because it was a terrible football game. I'll give you that one. But Northwestern held Utah's offense in check until the fourth quarter. 7 points in the fourth quarter there for Utah. I mean, Northwestern led for most of this game. We talked about it. I said defense. Defense was going to win. And guess what? Defense won that ball game for Northwestern.
True. I mean, it was only 14-7, so definitely a defensive game.
Also, somebody should have gone with the troops because James Madison, the Dukes, should have just taken that bowl eligibility and left it at home because they did lose 31-21 to Air Force in that ball game. I'm pretty sure I said that one too. I don't remember.
Well, I stuck to my heart at least, so you can't hang my head on that.
Definitely. Don't hang your head on that one. It was a good pick. But with that, we got some bowl games coming up today. We got some action. Bowling Green taking on Minnesota. The 5-7 Gophers going into the Quick Lane Bowl against Bowling Green. I'm going to take Minnesota to win that ball game. I don't trust these mid-major, non-Power 5 teams going up against Power 5 schools. I think Minnesota will win that game.
I saw something that the only reason why Minnesota got in is because they had good grades. So, I'm still go with Minnesota, but they kind of threw them in there for a pity reason. I don't know why.
I think there was a lack of bowl teams, too.
Yeah.
I think there was a lack of teams that were eligible.
Yeah. So they were like the next team based on academics. They were allowed to, get in there. So I'm going to still go with the Gophers, though. I'm going to still go with the Gophers.
Keeping up in school. That's good for them, though.
Yeah.
Next up on our slate, we have Texas State taking on Rice. That'll be the Sev Pro First Responder Bowl. That'll be coming up from Dallas, Texas. I'm going to take Texas State.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about these two teams. I'm going to go with Rice, though, just because I like the food Rice. So I'm going to go with Rice.
That's valid. You like the food, you got to pick them. I got Texas State, you got Rice. Next up, we have the 8 o'clock game tonight. That'll be Kansas and UNLV. I'm going to take Kansas to win that one over UNLV.
I was also going to go with Kansas on this one. They had a really good season, so nothing to hang their heads on either. And I just like Kansas. I like what they're doing there, and they continue to grow. They keep growing, so I'm going with Kansas.
I mean, yeah, they're putting together. I mean, now that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving the Big 12, Kansas could be a powerhouse in the Big 12 there for football coming up here soon. I mean, everybody else is kind of bailing out the door here. So with that, I just want to jump back into college basketball for a second. I want to look at the rankings, the updated rankings as of yesterday when they came out. If I could ever get it to load in here, we got it coming up here. It's slowly working for me. There we go. Kind of. Maybe. There it is. All right, so coming in our one spot, as expected, Purdue hangs on in the one spot there. Kansas coming in the 2. Houston 12-0 in the 3 spot. Arizona coming off that. That was one of the best games of the weekend there on Saturday. If nobody watched it, you should have. Florida Atlantic and Arizona squared off, and it went to double overtime, and Florida Atlantic won that game over Arizona. That was an impressive win. Kind of put Florida Atlantic back on the map. Everybody was kind of underestimating what Florida Atlantic could do coming off of last season's surprising Final Four run. Going into this year, hadn't really gotten that statement win yet. Arizona, double overtime, Florida Atlantic pulls it off. That's an impressive win to me. It was probably, barring what happens in the rest of the season, the game of the year. It is one of the best games that I watched the highlights. I wasn't able to watch it. It was on Saturday. My wedding was at 1 o'clock. I couldn't turn the game on. I was told I couldn't turn the game on. I found out it was in double overtime. I was told I couldn't turn it on. But a huge game and win for Florida Atlantic. UConn coming in the 5, Tennessee in the 6, Florida Atlantic in that 7 now. They moved up 7 spots. Kentucky in the 8, North Carolina at the 9, and Marquette comes in the 10 spot. A lot of teams in between there before we get to the Badgers down there at 23 coming in the rankings there. They moved up one spot from the 24 to that 23 spot. Providence jumped into the rankings to 11-2 on this young season. So Providence jumped in there. A lot of good teams in college basketball this season. The rankings, we know they'll keep moving around as conference play starts and some of these teams start to square off. But with that, I want to move forward here. We got to talk about Century 21 Gold Key Realty, home team Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy, Sue, or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, find them on Facebook at Home Team Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. But with that, I want to jump over to Austin for our fact of the day.
On this day in 1934, correct me if I'm wrong, or not correct me if I'm wrong, but sorry if I get this wrong, the Yomiuri Giants, Japan's first professional baseball team, forms. I'm pretty sure I butchered that name, but I just thought this was an interesting fact because now we see how the emergence of Japan and their baseball and the Dodgers' two big signings with Shohei Ohtani and the I forget the other guy's name, but the very big signing. Yeah, Yamamoto. So I just thought that was a very interesting fact there.
Definitely an interesting fact of the day right there from Austin. We got, like you were saying there, it's definitely an influence now in the game of Major League Baseball, seeing how many guys are coming from overseas to play in the game. You know, it's not just your cut and dry league, just centralized United States. It goes all over now. I mean, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, Colombia. I mean, you got guys from everywhere at this point playing in the MLB. So it is good to see kind of the influence that it's had all around the world. But with that, we got to jump over into the Packers. I was trying to find a way to phrase this game, and the only thing I could come up with was ugly. That is the only thing I could come up with when watching this game. Packers led for most of it. I mean, they were up, 23-10 at the half. They took the big lead going in late in this ball game. The Panthers scratched their way back. I mean, that's what cats do. They scratch their way back. The only thing I could phrase it was ugly. That's the only thing I could phrase it with. They got the win, but it was ugly. And we're going to get into it a little bit more. We'll talk about it a little bit more. But right away, I just want to jump over to the stats. Austin, what did we see for stats in this game?
Yeah, looking at Jordan Love, he went 17 for 28, 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, only sacked one time, which is huge for our O-line there. Aaron Jones, when we're looking at rushing yards here, he had a big game, 127 yards, 21 carries, no touchdowns, but, I mean, he got us down inside the 5-yard line a couple times there. So this is definitely one of Aaron Jones's big games that he's had all year, considering he's been through so much injury and our O-line not doing so good early on. So definitely big for Aaron Jones. Jordan Love had 12 yards on 2 rushes, A.J. Dillon and 1 touchdown. A.J. Dillon had 1 touchdown on 7 carries and 12 yards, and then Bo Mellon also had a rush there for 7 yards. And then looking at receiving for the Packers, Romeo Doubs kind of led the charge, 4 receptions, 79 yards, 1 touchdown. Tucker Kraft also still not filling in, but still kind of doing what Luke Musgrave was doing there at the tight end position, 60 yards, 4 receptions. Bo Melton having a big game here, 44 yards, 4 receptions. Dontavion Wicks had 29 yards, 2 receptions, and 1 touchdown. So definitely a group effort there. No one kind of really went above and beyond like we've seen sometimes with Jordan Reed doing. It was kind of everyone kind of just being at the right place and Jordan Love finding them, doing what we need to do to get the first downs and get the touchdowns. And then looking at Carolina, Bryce Young, once again, we've kind of made him look like Steve Young out there. 312 yards on 23 completions, 36 attempts, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and only sacked twice there for Bryce Young. And then Chuba Hubbard had a decent game. He had 43 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Smith Marset had 33 yards and 1 touchdown. Our run game, we outran them 162 to 96. So, I mean, we definitely did better when we talk defensively in the rush game. It was the pass game that killed us this time, and majorly. And you can see that when we look into receiving. DJ Chark had 6 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Adam Thielen, 6 receptions, 94 yards. Tommy Tremble, 4 receptions, 59 yards. Steven Sullivan, 3 receptions, 21 yards. So they had a lot of guys above the 50-yard range. Unlike us, we had 2 guys above the 50-yard range, and the rest were below that significantly. But they had 2 guys with 90 plus yards receiving. So that's where it killed us, and especially with Jair playing. We saw Jair back, by the way. Didn't know if you knew that. You probably didn't know that, but I was surprised to see him out there, and he didn't really help, honestly. He didn't really. I mean, when you look at how many yards they were able to get on us and all that, you don't really see him doing that much, which is not very good. Besides that, yeah, our defense struggled. Our defense struggled a lot, and luckily we were still able to pull out a nail biter, considering Dan Carlson missed an extra point again. They missed a couple extra points, I'm pretty sure, too. But when it mattered, Anders Carlson. I was talking about his brother. Anders Carlson missed an extra point, but he was able to make the field goal at the end there when it mattered. So that's all that matters. We got the win, and we still have a chance to make the playoffs somehow.
You know, the big thing watching that ball game was, like you said, you get Jair back, and the defense still struggles. But it was what we expected. You bring in you still have a guy like Joel Berry. Nobody gets behind him in that locker room. Nobody cares anymore. So now we're seeing it on the defensive side. It's still defensive scheming. I mean, they went to a lot more man-to-man. They had a little bit of man-to-man plays in this ball game here, and it still didn't change anything. We still didn't see a change, but it's just a lot to do with what Joel Berry is drawing up for this defense to run. I think that's the big thing that we're seeing from Green Bay. Did a better job in the run game, but Carolina was forced to pass the ball a lot more in this one. Looking at guys around, I mean, Darnell Savage is not a terrible player. Everybody thinks he's the worst guy in the world. He's not a terrible player. I mean, he wasn't a terrible player coming out of college. He was a great player coming out of college. And you look at him, he's in the wrong position. I mean, he should be playing in a nickel. He's not in the nickel. That's the big problem with Darnell Savage, is that you're putting guys in positions where they're not going to succeed. So if that's the case, if we're going to stick with Joel Berry, then we need to get guys that'll succeed in Joel Berry's defense. Right now, these guys aren't succeeding because they're out of position. You put Jair Alexander in zone coverage, he's not going to succeed as a cornerback. Last year, first time against Justin Jefferson, the Packers, Jair Alexander stunk. He was terrible. But you put him man-to-man against Justin Jefferson that next time out, Jair was a dog. He shut down Justin Jefferson. That's the big difference right now, is Joel Berry isn't putting his guys in the right position to succeed on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, if you want your quarterback to win MVP, I think Dallas and the 49ers wish they played the Packers coming up, because Dak Prescott, after a game against Green Bay's defense, would look like the MVP. Brock Purdy would look like the MVP once again after a game against the Packers. The Packers make quarterbacks look good. I mean, that's where quarterbacks succeed, is against Green Bay. Looking at Bryce Young's stats, I mean, he's terrible. He was terrible coming into this ballgame. And yet the Packers made him look like he was supposed to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Before this game, everybody thought CJ Stroud should have gone to the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young should be in Houston right now. But flip the script. Now it looks like Bryce Young should have been the number 1 pick, coming off of 312 yards there and a couple touchdown passes. It was an impressive game out of Bryce Young, don't get me wrong, but Green Bay's defense did not help all the Packers in this one. I mean, you look at this one, Jordan Love, I think, at the end of the day, Jordan Love is still not the greatest quarterback in the world. He's not. But the Packers put him in a lot of positions where he's got to make throws. Looking at this one, yes, he did lead the Packers down the field late in this one, was able to put them into field goal range to win it. But at the same time, Jordan Love shouldn't have been in that position to have to go down the field, put the Packers in the field goal range to win it. That's the big kicker in this one. And technically, you look at this game here, The Packers, depending on who you ask, shouldn't have won the game or like they did, because there's people out there who believe that Bryce Young got that ball down fast enough for the spike at the end of this ball game their coach argued for a while. He didn't get an explanation out of it. So there was a lot of moments in this game here where the Packers could have put Carolina away and they couldn't. So you look at that fourth quarter there, 14 points there for Carolina in the fourth quarter. That was your big difference. The Packers slowed them down all game long. We're kind of limiting them to what they could do. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, the defense was just like, okay, here we go. But, at the end of the day, you can blame players. We can blame players all day. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the main guy first. That's the big thing. When a play call is wrong, do we blame Jordan Love right off the bat? No, we can't, because Jordan Love didn't call the play. That was Matt LaFleur. When the defense is set up in a terrible spot, we can't completely blame the defense right off the bat. We have to look at the head guy. Who's communicating to these guys? Why are these guys not listening to the guy who's communicating to them? That's the big thing. That's the big thing for me right now, is that, yes, Jair played terrible. The defense played terrible on a whole. But at the same time, why? Why are they playing terrible? Why are we having communication issues? Look at the guy in charge. That's the big thing for me right now, is when you look at Joe Barry, do you really think he's rattling these troops? Do you really think he's getting them ready to rock and roll? I don't think so. I don't think Joe Barry is getting these guys ready. I don't think they're following him. I mean, we talked about it with the Badgers this year, with Luke Fickell, and we said that he lost the locker room, and that guys were talking about they didn't want to play. That's what I'm seeing right now. Devondre Campbell's sitting out on purpose right now. He's not forcing himself in. Why? He doesn't like what's going on here. I mean, why should he be out there getting matched up on Chris Godwin 7 times in a row, getting burnt, and then everybody on Instagram, Twitter, wherever it is saying Devondre Campbell sucks? He doesn't suck. He's just on a guy he shouldn't be on, and it should have changed after the first time. I get it if it happens once. One time, Devondre Campbell ends up on Godwin. It was a mistake. But then you fix it. They didn't fix it. They kept going to it. They kept making it. It kept happening and happening and happening. And now we see. We've had Preston Smith on Justin Jefferson before. How well do you think that's going to work? Not many cornerbacks can keep up with Justin Jefferson. Nonetheless, you're going to keep Preston Smith on him. That's my problem with Green Bay. I mean, that is my problem with Green Bay, is the defense. The offense, I wouldn't give Jordan Love Daniel Jones money. I wouldn't. Look how Daniel Jones is working out with the Giants right now. There's a lot of people that said he should get that kind of money. I wouldn't give him that kind of money. I think he's still got a lot to prove to me before he gets big money. I think he's still got another year to prove what he's got in Green Bay. But I think the big thing is we got to see a change at defensive coordinator before we can decide who needs to go on the defense. If you got, say, Jim Leonard, just hypothetically saying, Jim Leonard decided, yeah, I'll take your job off for Matt LaFleur. I'll come be the defensive coordinator for Green Bay. Jim Leonard, very good defensive coordinator. He comes in, you give him a year, the defense is terrible. Okay, now going to that next year, now we can be like, okay, Jim Leonard wasn't it. Maybe the players are the problem. When you make a coaching change, then you can decide if the players are the problem in the situation here. Right now, we have a disgruntled defensive group, a terrible defensive coordinator, and a head coach who doesn't know when he needs to fire his friend. That's what we're getting right now in Green Bay. And if that doesn't change, we need to have a big change of regime at the top of the pecking order. We can get rid of, like we did, Rasul Douglas. We can go into this offseason. We can get rid of Devondre Campbell. We can get rid of Jair Alexander. We can get rid of Darnell Savage. We can unload the entire defensive side of the football, because all those guys are going to cause problems. We can get rid of them all. But at the end of the day, is that really what's going to fix Green Bay's defense? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Losing a guy like Jair, we know he's good. He might be playing injured. We know Jair's good. We've seen him good. We've seen Darnell Savage do good things. We've seen Devondre Campbell play very well for the Packers. We've seen Preston Smith play well for the Packers. We've seen Rasul Douglas have some big moments with Green Bay. Why are they all speaking out and are either gone or on the verge of being gone? Why is that? That's what I think the Packers need. That's what I think the front office for the Packers need to address moving forward.
Yeah, I'll kind of keep it short because you basically summarized a lot of everything that I was also thinking. Like you said, I'm not really worried about the offense because they put up 33 points against. We talked about the Panthers defense. We said the Panthers defense was. They were respectable. They were a pretty good defense. We put up 33 points against them, 23 of them coming in the first half. So, excuse me. I think our offense did just fine. It's the fact that our defense let up 30 points to a team that averages 14 points per game. That's where it's not fine. That's where it's not fine when we let Bryce Young have 312 passing yards right there. And if you're looking at the Panthers, you might be thinking Bryce Young hasn't been the problem after all. They're kind of in the same. They might be in the same situation as our defense. That Panthers offense might be in the same situation as our defense. That they're not getting put in the right position to succeed. So we made the Panthers offense look like all-stars. Our offense looked pretty good, and our defense is in shambles once again. And we have 2 more games to prove if we want to make the playoffs or not. And even if we do make the playoffs, I'm not sure if I want to, because we're going to end up playing the Cowboys first, or that'll probably be the Cowboys first. So that would just be great. Maybe even the 49ers. Pretty sure, I can't remember. I think the 49ers control their own destiny. So even though they lost the Ravens last night, if they still win out these 2 games, they would get the first seed. They would get the number 1 seed in the bye. So it's between the Eagles. I don't know. Eagles or Cowboys. Obviously, we wouldn't play the Cowboys. We wouldn't play the wild card team of the 2. So, either way, a very tough team to play if the Packers somehow make the playoffs.
Yeah, and like you said, do you really want to? Because a lot of people have said over the years there, why does Greg Gard keep his job in Madison? Because he somehow finds a way to win when push comes to shove. He goes through struggles and then he finds a way to win. That's why they think that. I have never thought Greg Gard should be fired, but at the same time, if Joel Berry's defense somehow plays well, say they got into that playoff game, say they somehow beat the Cowboys, then we have a problem. Because then it's like, how could you get rid of Joel Berry now after he just shut down the Cowboys offense? That's going to be the big kicker for me, is if they get into that playoff scenario. Now it's like, well, we can't get rid of him now. He coached well. I mean, that'll be the argument that we'll get out of that end. The big thing I took out of this game and has been leading up here is I don't think we need Christian Watson. I don't. Because Dontavian Wicks, and in this one, Samori Torre and Romeo Doubs, and you have a guy like Jaden Reed, those guys can carry the wide receiver room. I just don't know how much longer, because I know Dontavian Wicks got hurt in this one, but after this game, seeing what he can do, the yardage after the catch from Dontavian Wicks, it just leads me to believe that bringing Christian Watson back into the fold kind of takes away from those other guys for Green Bay. So I think that's kind of the big kicker for me right now. We'll see what happens. Dontavian Wicks did leave the game with an injury, but I am impressed with what I've seen out of Dontavian Wicks so far this season, and just the after the catch. His yards after the catch have been impressive. But with that, I want to move on here. We're going to jump over into the NFL weekend recap. A lot of games happened over the weekend here, Saturday, Sunday, and Christmas Day. So right away, we got to look at Saturday's games. The Steelers got the 34-11 win over the Bengals. Not what we expected there. The Bengals kind of looked bad in that ball game. Bills pulled it out against the Chargers. That game shouldn't have been a game, but somehow the Chargers were able to pace with the Bills in that one. Looking into Sunday, the Falcons with the 29-10 win over the Colts. Seahawks got the 20-17 win over the Titans. Lions 30-24 over the Vikings. The Jets beat the Commanders 30-28. Packers, like we were talking. Then we had the Browns getting the 36-22 win over the Texans. Joe Flacco is that guy. The Buccaneers with the big win. The Jaguars are in shambles right now. I don't even know what to say about the Jags right now. 30-12 was the final there. Buccaneers got the win. The Bears 27-16 over the Cardinals. Dolphins pulled off the big game of the day, 22-20 there against the Cowboys. Patriots got the upset win in the nightcap, 26-23. That was a crazy game. Monday's games, Christmas Day, Raiders pulled off the upset over the Taylor Swift-led Chiefs, 20-14. The Eagles with the big win over the Giants, they're 33-25. And the Ravens kind of dismantled the 49ers on that Monday night game, 33-19 in that one. Lamar Jackson looked good. Brock Purdy looked like he was lost. I mean, he had, I believe, 4 interceptions in that ball game, no touchdown throws. It was a bad game all around for the 49ers. An impressive game, though, by the Ravens. I thought the Ravens played fantastic in that ball game against the 49ers. So any big surprises from this weekend slate here for you?
Maybe that last game. That the Baltimore San Francisco game could be a Super Bowl matchup right there. Just looking at it right there. I wasn't surprised that Baltimore won. I'd say the surprise is how bad Brock Purdy did. Like you said, no touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You could probably say goodbye to the MVP right there. I mean, sadly. But an MVP would have 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions and then get replaced. I mean, he did get banged up like in the fourth quarter, and then Sam Darnold ended up going in, and Sam Darnold ended up playing pretty good. So compared to how Brock Purdy was playing. So you could probably say goodbye to the MVP for Brock Purdy. But looking at the other games, I mean, Miami versus Dallas, that was a good game. Maybe I would say New England versus Denver, especially at Denver. I don't think a lot of people saw New England winning that game, and New England was able to show up and show out with Bailey Zappi at the helm there, and they were able to beat Denver. I think not a lot of people, especially with how good Denver's been playing and how bad New England's been playing, I think a lot of people saw Denver maybe winning that game. Tampa Bay, I mean, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They're looking to win the NFC South for them, which is good for Tampa Bay. Besides that, I mean, New York Jets got to win, so good for them. 30-28 over Washington. Trevor Siemian, they're on like their third quarterback this year or fourth quarterback this year, and Trevor Siemian had 217 passing yards, and Breece Hall's back for them. So Breece Hall both had 95 rushing yards and 96 receiving yards. So having Breece Hall back for the Jets was kind of big for them. And they put up 30 points. So they probably could have competed with the Packers for all I know. And they might have won because our defense, like we said, sucks. Besides that, I mean, Las Vegas versus Kansas City. I don't know if you watched that game, but oh my gosh, Kansas City, they're in shambles. Talk about a team in shambles. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had a fumble, and then that ended up getting a scoop and score for a touchdown. Next drive through a pick six. And their team was just didn't look good. I think Las Vegas could have probably beat them by more if they had a decent offense, if they had a better quarterback. I mean, their quarterback's still good. I mean, their quarterback was still pretty good. And I forget his name sometimes. O'Connell, yep. And but their defense carried. Their defense is what carried this game, and they ended up winning 20-14. First time in 6 meetings that they beat them, or 5 meetings that they beat Kansas City. I didn't exactly know what it was, but Las Vegas, when they fired their head coach, and now they have their interim head coach, they're looking like a good team, which I'm happy to see. Las Vegas has been they've been struggling for the past how many years now. They made the playoffs one time, and then they lost. I'm pretty sure to the Bills. But besides that, they kind of struggled, so it's good to see the Raiders doing good in the AFC West over there. Besides that, I kind of expected some of these teams to win. I'm pretty sure I picked some of these teams to win too. I don't really remember. I don't go back as far. I don't really go. Like you said, Christmas was very, very hectic, so I kind of forget a lot of things that happened. Like if you advance 4 days back, I say 4 days. Everything 4 days ago, it's out of my mind.
4 days back. I go yesterday. Everything yesterday is out of my mind already. But with that, we got to jump over. We had our fantasy football picks from last week. I have the results. So
I know I lost.
I lost, Rich. Hold on. We got to check into it. So, here it is. At quarterback, I had Josh Allen. You had Brock Purdy. Josh Allen put up 24 points for me. Brock Purdy had 2.4 points. Not so good. Not so good there. Next up, in the running back room, though, James Cook had 5 points for me. CMC had 25 for you, so an impressive day there out of CMC. In our wide receiver room, CeeDee Lamb put up 25 points for me. Tyreek Hill had 18 for you. Looking at wide receiver 2, T. Higgins had 25 points. A.J. Brown had 14 points. Sammy Laporta put up 4 points for me compared to Travis Kelce, 9.4 for you. In our flex, Amon St. Brown put up 29 points for me. Elvin Kamara put up 8.5. And our defenses, the Bills had 5 points and the Browns had 7. The final tally, Trajan, 117. Austin, 84. There's our final for the fantasy. You took the L this week, Austin. You took the L.
Trage, I've been telling you I suck at fantasy, and I will probably continue. I'll keep playing this game. I'll keep playing this game of yours, but
you'll win one. You'll win one.
I probably won't. The truth is, I suck at fantasy. I'm a bad GM. Like I told my buddies, I'm looking to resign after this year in my league because my team just doesn't deserve me. So it's not looking good for my teams in real life, and it's not looking good for my teams in alternate reality life. Everything's bad. Everything is bad, Trage. But I'll keep continuing. I'll continue to play. Yeah, I'm in shambles. I'm in shambles as a coach. I'm in shambles as a GM of fantasy football. And it's just not. It hasn't been a good year for me. It hasn't been a good year.
He's emotionally distraught, folks. He's emotionally distraught. But
the podcast. I'm done.
The new year is coming, so everything will be okay. We are almost to 2024. But with that, that's about all we got for you guys today. We're going to be talking a lot more Packers this week. We got to keep up with everything Wisconsin. We know there's going to be a lot of news coming out, and we will be the first ones to report it for you. But until we talk tomorrow, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trades. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. But until then, deuces.